Okay, everybody, welcome to the Laser Sports Academy post-Nats review for the 2022 Zone ZLTAC Australasian Championships in Bendigo. My name's Bootza. I want to introduce our guest for today. We've got Laser Sports Academy co-founder and Aftershock player finishing 4th place this year, Mr. Holmes. Welcome, Mr. Holmes.
G'day.
Yeah. And we have 2016 doubles champion and all-round legendary dude.
Stop it.
Four Eyes from Spare Parts. How are you, mate?
Oh, yeah, pretty bloody good now with that introduction. Far out. Settle down.
I'd only say things that are true, of course. That's what we're here to. We're here to deliver factual, informational content. So there you go. There's the first factual.
I don't know where you got the facts from, but appreciate it nonetheless.
Hanging out with you. That's about it. So just for some of our international viewers, mate, everybody on the Australasian scene knows who you are. Well, most people should know who you are, will know who you are. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and how long you've been playing and that kind of thing.
Well, real name's Peter. From New Zealand, Auckland, New Zealand. Came up with the nickname Four Eyes for obvious reasons, but decided to make a little play on the alias, of course. Been playing competitively. First year was 2015 Bendigo, so it's kind of come full circle this year, which is pretty cool. But yeah, just been in the league scene since about 2008, 2009. So yeah, that was quite a while ago. So hopefully sticking it out to become a Masters player, so 35 and over, but we won't disclose how old I am. But yeah, love a good laugh and just hanging out, really.
Very good. And when Holmes told me you were coming on, I was super stoked because...
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, we're very lucky to have you reviewing our first group of teams. So just to frame up for everybody at home, the way we're going to be doing this post-Nats review is we're breaking it into 3 sections. Today we're going to be doing teams 17 to 24. And, you know, you have played in the top area of the tournament previously, and also very good player. Like obviously he's won a doubles. It's very hard to win a doubles. So
lucky. I just got lucky. Had a good partner.
Lucky. Yeah, got lucky all the way to finals and all through 4 games of finals. Sure, that's all luck. So to have you to be able to come on and comment this year, obviously there was no New Zealand team, so you were placed on the Spare Parts team, which was like a collection of players from different regions.
Literally Spare Parts, yeah.
It was literally. I thought that was the best, most appropriate name. So you guys, no doubt, had a great time, but without the practice together and all that kinds of things, you probably didn't have massive expectations on your results. So it was just, great to be able to have somebody of your caliber to be able to, do this first review with us and be able to, provide some feedback on the 8 teams that we're going to review tonight.
Oh, no dramas. I'm all good with it. Good time.
Good times. So essentially, what we're going to be doing during the review is reviewing all the teams and players, talking about how they went, hopefully providing some entertainment, hopefully providing something educational and informative as well. So that's our aim. This is our first we're launching off on this journey for the first time. So we really would love to have any feedback from the public that we can get. So please email us or send us a message if you've got any feedback about what you want to see, and we can do our best to keep getting better as we do punch these reviews out in the future. All right, we're going to be trying to aim for about 5 minutes per team. We do have some tools available, which Ryan has gone to the effort to put together. He's done a great job to show us how the team's results sort of went throughout the different rounds of the tournament and how they compare to the Sinks list. Ryan will be having that coming up on the screen as we go through. So did you want to give us a bit of a tour first, Holmes?
Yeah, sure. So for the most part, when we talk about the individuals, we're actually just going to be using base dump. So thank you very much, Benson, for making a very groovy and intuitive bit of stat stuff. It makes my job very easy. But otherwise, it's nothing crazy. I just went to the effort of basically I got the for this interview, I've got the bottom 8 teams, 17th to 24th, and then I've noted their placings in each of the stages of the competition, and then also noted like how many positions they climbed and dropped between those stages. Provided like an overall, like how many positions they climbed and dropped from the start of the competition to the end of the competition, and then lastly just a little column to compare how they went compared to their Sinks list predicted results. Another thing we'll be looking at is I've also recorded all of the teams' final average scores after each of the stages of the comp, excluding the last day, because obviously the last day is a little bit different with, you know, all the teams play a different amount of games, and that information also just wasn't as readily available. But yeah, I've done round robin, Cascade 1 and Cascade 2, and then I've also done ranked each of the teams like between each of the stages in regards to like their average score. So for instance, in round robin, Darwin Dingoes had the highest average score of the bottom 8, and Crazy had the lowest average score, and then so on and so forth. So yeah, we'll be just using that as a little bit of a complement to the conversation, I guess.
Wonderful. Yep. So we've got plenty to talk about tonight. So, well, let's get straight into it. We're going to start first with 24th place, the Ghost Bears from ACT. On the Ghost Bears, we had Finn, Nickel returning, Striker, Annie, Sauron, and as I just was educated, Alter Ego. I was trying to pronounce it something completely different to that. I won't even expect it how I was trying to pronounce it, but it is, if you read it backwards, it's Alter Ego. And they finished in 24th place. Sinks list had them coming in at 20th. So, yeah, I'm going to hand over to you, Four Eyes. Tell us, how did they play during the tournament? How did their strategy move throughout the tournament, and how did they perform?
Well, I enjoyed playing against them. Obviously, I played against Nickel before, and Sauron as well, Chops. Great players. They also had some newer players this year, I believe, in the likes of Finn and Annie as well.
Yeah. I think they also had Striker, who I don't think has played a Nationals before, but he was definitely at a couple of the pre-nats.
Yeah. I missed 2020, so this year was a huge shock to me to see how many new players there were. But in regards to Ghost Bears, yeah, they were basically organized chaos. They had huge attack potential with Finn, and he obviously did well in side events as well. So, but playing against them, Annie's calls, man, you could hear them from the other side of the maze. It was intense. So, yeah, I've got nothing but good things to say about them as a team. They complemented each other well. Obviously, with the newer players being guided by the more experienced players, you could see definite potential there. Obviously being new and inexperienced, just need to get some more games under their belt to try and climb the rankings a bit higher.
I noticed Finn finished on a GRC of 1.26. That was the top of his team, and he got a plus 1.02 tag ratio. So was Finn running their attack?
I did run into him a lot of the times, not physically, but I did stand off against him quite a lot.
Not a person I'd want to run into in the arena, mate.
Terms everywhere. He's quite skilled. Again, he's got good timing, good positioning as well. He was definitely up there in the attack quite a lot. I didn't really see him on defense when I was attacking his base. When I did, I hardly saw him at all because he was just fast and he was quite a blur. So you'd get dinged and you'd kind of look around and just see like a blonde flash just running off into the distance. So
I think my understanding is that so it was worth noting that Nickel actually rocked up a couple days late into the competition.
Okay.
But obviously you were sick for the first few days of the competition as well, so you probably wouldn't have seen it or noticed. But anyway, so as far as I'm aware, once Nickel came and started playing, he was very much their in-game leader, their lead attacker, and Finn was like the, whatever you want to call, like opening batsman, second attacker, something along those lines. And that's very much reflected in his stats. He's got the highest average score of the team. He tagged the most people on the team. He had the highest base average on the team by quite a lot as well. So yeah, that definitely checks out. I only had the pleasure of versing this team once in round robin. But yeah, that was when Nickel wasn't there. So it was the first, I only versed them the one game, and it was at the very start of the competition, so I'm not actually sure how they were structuring their team before Nickel rocked up. But yeah, no, Finn was very, very impressive. He did play Prenet's 1, I believe, with the Canberra team that came. And also, while I was going through the stats before, I actually noticed that Finn held a 16k game, so that's pretty...
Holy moly.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it was a pretty, you know, getting that score like in from anyone is like impressive. So
I bet you there's a whole bunch of people who would have been a whole bunch of people who played the final that have never scored 16k in a game before.
Yeah, for sure.
A big score. So for somebody sitting at home, it was great to see Nickelback. Nickelback? I just said Nickelback. No, I don't listen to Nickelback. I'm sorry. Yeah, so many of the people at home might not know he's actually won a Nationals. He won in 2013 with the Dragons. So he has played at the pointy end, has been up there. He's had a few years off, so I'm sure he wasn't at his peak. But I'm really curious to know, hear from you guys, how he went this year, how he played.
Yeah, well, I can comment on. It felt like he's never left. You know, he's still running a good strategic game. Yeah, I haven't really played against him too much in the lead up to his, you know, hiatus for a couple of years, but yeah, he's definitely there, keeping his team motivated and coming up with some decent strategies. I mean, the team did structure quite well, but like I said before, you know, just a little bit of lack of experience, and yeah, they would have done heaps better, but there's huge potential there.
Yeah, I think I was refed one of their games towards the end of the competition. Might have been Cascade 2 or Cascade 1, but yeah, definitely I think what was lacking for this team was just the overall experience of their, maybe not of the players themselves necessarily, although they did have 2 like brand new players and striker as well, but it was like experience playing as a team, because when I was watching the defense, for instance, there was a lot of cases of like people just like slipping by pathways and stuff and getting into their base for free. You know, someone would come back to the base after it's been taken and they were like, oh, how'd they even get past? It is a mistake that happens, like even the top end teams do it. But yeah, that was something I noticed whilst I was reffing, is the defense seemed a little disorganized and they didn't quite have all of the, you know, all of the pathways kind of accounted for, I guess would be the way to say it.
Yep. So what would you say is the something like 1 or 2 things they could focus on to move them into the next tier?
You can go first, Peter.
Yeah, well, like, you know, like Holmes mentioned, just organising the defence a little bit better. The attack's just fine. Like the attacks, yeah, I've got nothing bad to say about their attack, but especially when it comes to defence, maybe just having a last line dedicated, maybe like Annie, because she does have the vocal cords to, you know, call the team home. Just maybe positioning their players a little bit closer to home rather than pushing far out. If they set up, say, maybe in just positions where, you know, they're not starved of points, but in areas where they can kind of keep an ear out or an eye out for their base, and having their pathways covered would definitely push them up the scoreboard.
Yeah, I'd be inclined to agree with that as well. I always say to my up and coming players in that league, and Nats players as well, that a lot of really good teams are built upon the insurance policy of their defense being really good. You can have the best attack in the world, but by the time, let's say, your 2 main attackers go out and they get 2 bases and you've lost like 6 or 7, you might not really be in like a good spot in the game. So yeah, a good defense is just like a insurance policy that you definitely want to get around. And yeah, I think it'd be a case of, because from what I saw, people were sneaking past and like making it to their base without them even knowing about it. A little bit more restriction in terms of how far they go, but also that's the balance of when you're in that field pointing stage, is being far enough out that you can actually have an impact in the game and accrue some tags, but not so far out that people can sneak past you. That's one of the harder bits of the game, I think, in terms of like to really nail as a team, because like everyone has to be on the same page and know exactly like what they're supposed to be doing depending on like what position they're playing and stuff. So yeah, just shore up that defense, and yeah, the like Four Eyes was saying, the attack was clearly doing like pretty well. Like even Nickel's stats were pretty good as well. So yeah.
Yes, and yeah, Nickel finished on a nearly 1 tag ratio as well, so he was doing really well in there. So, well, yeah, we hope the Ghost Bears return. I'm sure they will. It's great to see Nickel back. I'm sure he'll put a real lift into the scene there. So yeah.
Oh, for sure.
We'll
good dude.
Talk about the Dragons soon too. I was really happy with what we, in a later release, we'll talk about the Dragons. But I think there was signs there, especially with BG Master getting his second, that there's good things happening down there. So, okay, let's move on to Crazy now from the Northern Territory. So we have Ash, Infused Junior, Prince Koala, Hulk, and Haddo, who played on Crazy. They finished 23rd. Sync's list had them in at 24, so they finished 1 place higher. What can we say about Crazy there, Four Eyes?
Well, Hulk is returning. I think his last played Nats was 2016, I think. And obviously Ash is returning as well. I don't recognize any of the other names, unfortunately. But I hear Infused Junior is EMI's son?
Correct.
Yes.
Is that right? Oh,
yeah.
Okay, cool. Dude's tall, man. Far out. But as a team, again, it was a little bit of an experience mixed with the hiatus of Hulk. He was a pretty good player back in 2016, from what I remember. Just in terms of their attack and defense, it was just their defense was actually pretty good. They'd always have 3 people there, but maybe that could have been their downfall, because they would always have 3 people at their base, perhaps when there was only, for example, just me attacking, just poking around and having a look. They would always have 3 staying home. They had the resources to maybe sacrifice that 1 extra to defender to push out and maybe get some more points. But as far as their attack goes, it was pretty solid.
Judging by the stats, we had Infused Junior and Prince Koala were the ones with the highest base average, and they also had the highest average scores of the team. So my guess would be that I can't remember versing this team, unfortunately, but my guess would have been that Infused Junior and Prince Koala were the main attackers. Ash, being the most experienced player in the team, I imagine was leading, but judging by her stats and what I roughly remember, I think she was captaining or leading from more of like a mid position, I guess. So she would crunch home and prioritize the defense very much, but when nothing's going on, she would leave the base and try and be that third person to have some kind of an impact on the attack, which in Bendigo you were able to do from, you didn't have to venture very far from your base to have some kind of a sight line on the enemy base. And even if you just tag that 1 player, that can be the difference of getting a base or not. Yeah.
I can confirm that Ash was a pain in defense. A lot of the time she would be positioned under the base, and I would just somehow always forget that she was there. So I'd come flying into a base and get ready to set up, and then I'd be tagged out, and I'd look around and be like, oh yeah, Yep, she's there. So again, no, their defense was really good. Like I mentioned before, maybe if she played outside of the base, but what she was doing was working for them. So I can't really criticize it too much because it was keeping me out. So yeah.
And that was one of those things where until like the last day, pretty much, there weren't very many teams that had any defenders inside of the base, because they were like very hard to hold in like the way we normally imagine holding like a last line position. That did change on the last day, particularly in the higher tier. I can't comment on the lower tiers, but initially we versed the Sabres. So Aftershock versus the Sabres, and we saw them do it at blue base, and we didn't have anything for blue base, so we were like, we're going to use that. So I think it was only less Sabres and then us that I remember really seeing use it. But then on the last day, like, everyone was using it. So was that something you noticed? Like, were more people doing that inside the base on that last day for us, or?
Yeah, I think, especially down towards the bottom end of the competition, a lot more people were a little bit more conservative. They didn't want to give up too many bases, but there was points in the game where I wouldn't call it base hunger, but people would realize, we might not be as far ahead as we feel. So they would kind of push out and leave their defense open a little bit more often than what they would have up in the higher tier. Yeah, it all just comes down to experience again, especially being able to read the game. It's something that I'm not very good at, but there are players that I came up against in the lower end, especially Nickel. He's a good game reader. In terms of crazy, yeah, Ash being the leader of the game from inside a base, I feel you can't really read that much from in that stationary position. You kind of got to be out there floating around a bit more, but that's just my opinion, but it was working for them, so yeah.
Yeah, and maybe it was a case of Ash wasn't even in an in-game leader position, if that's the case.
Yeah,
maybe
true.
It was Infused Junior. Like, you normally wouldn't expect the first-year players to be doing that, but it does happen. Lakeo, first-year captain, got third in his first Nats, so it's not impossible. So yeah, maybe that's a case of Ash did step down from a leadership role and then let Infused Junior or Prince Koala to lead the game, because they were the ones that had the stats that would you would usually expect from a in-game leader as well. Just something quick to note. So if we look at the average scores, Crazy actually had the lowest average score from round robin, Cascade 1 and Cascade 2. So that kind of backs up what you were saying a little bit of teams being very conservative, and then maybe Crazy not making proper use of their defensive players when nothing's happening. And that's something that I found as I've traversed through I played it pretty much every tier of the competition myself as well. And I think one of the biggest thing that separates the higher end teams from the lower end teams is how they use their defenders when no one's attacking them. It's a massive part of, because, if you have a 3 defense and a 2 attack is usually that's what you generally see at every base, right? If you've got a really good 3-man D, it's really hard for a 2-man attack to be able to break through that, because you're obviously outnumbered. You have the ability to outposition them or move around and stuff, but it's still the odds aren't in your favor. So being able to have that third defender push up to a field pointing position and just tag that one person and then make it a 2v2 can have a massive impact on a team's ability to get more bases and stuff, and then also accrue pack points. So that'd be, I guess, leading into the question we were going to ask in terms of what Crazy could do to improve in the future. That'd be my recommendation, I guess.
Yeah. Have you got anything to add to that, Peter?
Yeah, like I mentioned before, utilizing your defenders when nothing much is going on, and knowing when to push out and when to pull home, and that sort of thing would definitely help them. I know Ash has got the in-game experience to kind of guide them to do that, and with Hulk returning, I definitely know that he's had that experience as well, especially up in the Northern Territories, playing with those guys up there. But yeah, another thing I just want to mention is, especially when it comes to defending, their communication and their positioning was really good. It was quite surprising. Not trying to talk down to them or anything, but it was quite surprising to see how well positioned their defense was when I was trying to get in or when I was trying to attack with a partner. Yeah, it was really cool to see. So I was just like, oh man, I got to put my big boy pants on now and actually work hard for this base,
Yeah.
I think one other thing I wanted to note, something I noticed when I was going through the stats of this year and also previous years. So Crazy was actually placed 24th, so the last place, the wooden spoon position, from round robin, Cascade 1 and Cascade 2. But on the very last day, they were able to climb to the 23rd position. And Ghost Bears basically had the reverse effect where they were 23rd for the whole comp until the last day, and they dropped down that one position. Interestingly, pretty much the exact same thing happened in 2020 Nats. So it was the New Zealand Tigers were in last place for the entirety of the comp. I believe they really, I don't think they got a win until the last day, and that win is what got them out of the wooden spoon. And it ended up, funnily enough, being a Canberra team that swapped places with them. So just a case of history repeating itself a little bit. I just thought that was interesting. A little bit of trivia.
There you go. Interesting fact. We'll put that in a future quiz or something like that.
Yeah.
Which teams have done that?
Midweek pub quiz.
Exactly. So, yeah, that's our review on Crazy. It sounds like there's a lot to work with there. Having a foundation of a solid defense is it's the blueprint for most sports. Most championship teams start with a rock solid defense, and then the capacity to switch from defense into attack, like you were mentioning, Holmes, is something that you refine over time and get better and better and better at. So good luck to Crazy in the coming months, and hopefully we see you in 12 months' time in Hobart.
Yeah, so we'd definitely love to play them again. Yeah.
Yeah, good absolutely. Team. I want to see Infuse Junior too. I want to see if he plays like his old man or not. Okie dokie. So we're going to move now to spare parts. Somebody might know a little bit about spare parts in this trio. Spare parts finished in 22nd position. They were sync listed at 15th. They have Four Eyes, Ghibli, Master Guardian, Queenie, Nessica, and Lycan on their team. And just fun fact, Four Eyes got the highest GRC of anybody in the bottom 8 teams. There you go, 1.6. What can you tell us about the spare parts, mate? I'm sure you've got lots to share. I'm setting my timer.
It's like a dysfunctional team that could really. Obviously 2 players coming from overseas, 2 from out of Queensland and 2 from out Victoria. So
mic off.
Training together because myself and Lycan actually arrived after the opening ceremony
mic on.
Of the comp, and then I was really crook. So I missed about 3 days of competition, I think. So yeah, I just kind of went in blind, no expectations. I was like, look, let's just have a good time, see what we can do with what we got, and go from there. And I wasn't disappointed. A great bunch of people to play with, especially guards and Ness. Never played with them before, and I've played all tier of the competition now, and actually, soaking in guards' wisdom in terms of gameplay and stuff like that is really cool to see. So I've learnt quite a bit from this comp. Learnt not just about myself as a player, but different ways of reading a game and basically how to play, really. So yeah, great, good time.
Something I know from history is guards has not always been with the strongest players, so he's had to utilise his wisdom and wiliness to get victories. And he knows how to play lots of different strategies. He knows how to play dumps. He knows how to play normal traditional games. And when he defends, he likes to Mopar plays similarly in defense. They like to move between positions. So every time you enter the base, they're in a different spot.
Can confirm.
It becomes really tricky and really frustrating as an attacker. So, what can you tell us about the structure of your team and what roles you guys were playing?
All throughout round robin and Cascades, we were still trying to figure out what was working for us. Obviously, it took us a lot longer to figure out what was working for us than potentially other teams, just because we were kind of just mushed together. But yeah, so basically, Guards was our game leader. He was making some really good calls, and Jessica was our pretty much lead defender as well. Again, another person that likes to play under the base. There was times where I'd be running around coming back to swap with her or something like that, and I couldn't find her, and I'd just be like, oh no, she's gone. And then Guards or Queenie or someone would remind me, oh, she's under the base. It's just like, oh, okay, sweet. So I had to go in and pull her out because she's been in there for so long, part of the furniture. Yeah, I was basically lead attack or push floater most of the time. Queenie was our dedicated floater. For the time that Jipley was playing with us, she was usually second off the blocks to go attack. And Guards was basically running games from wherever he was. Yeah, no, it was a great bunch of people to play with. Obviously, we had teething problems and stuff like that, but we managed to pull it together for a few wins on the last day. Maybe not as well as we would have hoped, but I had heaps of fun. I didn't have to stress about strategies and stuff because I was like, sweet, Guardian's got this. So yeah, I was just having a good time and making jokes and all that sort of thing, the kind of thing that's kind of kept me around for so many years now. So yeah.
I think it's oh, you go, Bootza.
I was just going to say, I'm probably biased, but somebody who's probably a bit underrated is Queenie, I think.
Oh yeah,
she's actually a really good pack-on-pack player, and because she's playing in the environment up here in Queensland, she's through osmosis just picking up all those things. She's obviously she doesn't take it as seriously as the top tier teams, but that's what we love about her. But she does know how to play, and she's a great player to have on your team. She's such a great soldier. So yeah.
I definitely remember coming up against Queenie in the round robin, I think, and yeah, she was really, really difficult to deal with on the back door. Is typically, so for those that weren't there, a lot of the teams were typically putting some of their best pack-on-pack players or their top players with the best timing on the back doors of the base, because that was traditionally where a lot of the attackers would want to get into the base from, because that's where there was the least angles, like from sniping angles. So it was easier to activate on the back door than it was on the front door. So your attacker would go to the back door, and then you just have to win your duel against the back door defender, and then you get into the base. But Queenie's timing was really, really good. And very difficult to deal with, even in that one round robin game I remember versing spare parts in. So yeah, well done, Queenie.
Is there any chance of a reconvention of the spare parts team, or do you think it was a team of convenience for this year? For us?
Man, I'd love to play with them again. Obviously, playing with Lycan, I played with her in 2016 on the team with her, and she's one of the ones that basically taught me everything I know as far as a defensive player goes. Yeah, so I'm nothing but good things to say, especially to Guards and Jessica. Like, they would, a lot of the time, Ness would check up on me. When I was quite sick, she'd be like, "Oh, you want anything or anything like that?" And I'd be like, "No, just leave me to die." But, yeah, no, it was a good time. Definitely would like to play with them again. Queenie and Jipley especially Jipley for the time that she was there. I haven't played with her before. Another good pack-on-pack player, and obviously it showed with her coming third in women's. But yeah, no, it was just a good time. Yeah, heaps of fun.
I had looking at the placings of the average scores of all the teams across the whole comp, spare parts in round robin had the second highest average score in the bottom 8, and then in Cascade 1 and 2 you had the highest average score of all the bottom 8 teams. So my guess from just looking at the data and not versing you guys outside of that one round robin game would be that you got a lot of bases most of the time, and maybe that meant that you were leaking a lot of bases as well. Is that generally what was happening?
Yes Yes and no. The only reason I'd say that is because a lot of our leaky points were coming from denials. And that's a lot of the time just not used to each other's voices, just not used to each other's play styles, that sort of thing. I'm lucky I didn't team deny anyone, but there were times I would just come racing into a base and realizing it was my own team that was taking, or I wouldn't be covering a door as well because I'd be thinking it was someone else taking the base, and I'd end up costing my teammates a base or something like that. But in terms of defense, S was a huge cog in the wheel of the spare parts team. She's great on defense. Queenie definitely popped back a lot of the time to check up on defense, and she was managing her positioning quite well as well. Blacken's just a solid rock. You can rely on her to do anything basically. And Guards was, doing Guardian things and just basically keeping track of everyone and everything. And he was helping push through bases, and he was making calls to bounce, and he was making calls to dump if there's been too many bases gone and stuff like that. So I think a lot of our lost points were coming from denials, but I think as a team as a whole, we can definitely see on the scoreboard that we started working more as a team as the comp went on, but obviously just not enough at the end of the day. So, I mean, a little disappointing, but again, I can't ask for a bit of random bunch of people to be pushed together into a team. So,
it's interesting you bring up denials, Four Eyes, because when I was going through the data, do you want to guess who was the most denied player of the entire comp?
Probably me.
It was by quite a bit as well.
Yep, it's either me or Mopart. Me and him have been having a running joke for a few years now that me and him are going for the most denials and stuff like that. I wish they had a trophy for it, because I'd be bringing one home every year. So
yeah. So you were the leading that on the solo ladder. So you had an average denial rate of 1.89. So for those not in the know, that means he was getting basically denied on average almost 2 times, for 2 shots a game, which is 1,000 points is a 2-shot denial that you lose.
Yeah.
There's got to be. We've got to have a recount on that, surely, Four Eyes. That can't be right.
Oh, right.
No, yeah. I admit, I bled a lot of points on denials. I would just be going in full cowboy, just be all right, I think it's clear. I'm just gonna go for it. And obviously backfired a little bit, but
well, look, I think
what it is.
I think I've heard Ibo say before, you miss every shot you don't take, and you ended up being the highest on the GRC ladder of the bottom 8, as Bootza alluded to before. So, that's the cost of greatness, I guess, is getting denied.
Stop it. It's just maybe a bit of carelessness too. I'm just
well, a bit of
lack of. Yeah, just lack of patience, I guess. I'm just get in there and get the base and just make sure that my teammates are all right and try and help them get through. So,
I certainly think it's underestimated just how much playing with people for even a little while reduces the amount of denials. I don't know from my experience playing doubles with players from interstate in the past. The first round, we're both getting denied left, right, and centre, and then it takes a few games, and you start to get used to each other's voices and positioning, and then you can start to get into it. So I could see how when you've got 6 players from 3 different states, that might be happening a little bit within the team.
Oh, definitely. And considering myself and Lycan ended up getting pretty sick, we both sounded like grumpy old men. Halfway through the comp, and whenever we try and call for each other, we just end up having a coughing fit in the middle of the maze. So, whoops. Oh well, it's something for me to work on anyway.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, Tassie might be colder than Bendigo next year. Hopefully, we can have a little bit less Nats flu next year than this year. Yeah.
Everyone was coughing.
Oh yeah, I've spoken to a lot of people this week, and everybody's got a croaky voice. So I fully recognise what you guys were going through down there. So okay. So that was the spare parts review. Big congratulations to the spare parts guys for having such a great time and playing so well. And we're going to move now to our first South Australian team, Anomaly, which somebody on the call here might know a little bit about.
A bit.
We've got Zeph, Happy, Wolfie, Axiom, Crow and Pendragon. They finished exactly where the Sinks list predicted them to finish, in 21st place. And looking at their stats, they had 3 players that performed on a GRC level pretty well. What can you tell us about how they played this week?
You go first, Four Eyes, then I'll let you know if
no
you're wrong
pressure.
or not.
Oh, geez, no pressure. Can I turn my camera off, maybe? No. Yeah, again, don't recognize a lot of the names on there. I do apologize. I've been out of the scene for a little bit, but in terms of their playstyle, a lot of them, I think the majority of the team were working really well together, but there's still a couple of people that, quite inexperienced and just kind of bringing it up the rear, I guess you could say, but with a little bit more guidance, huge potential for the team. I could probably say that about every team on the bottom 8, but when it comes down to it, this is definitely one of the ones I want to see returning, whole team, because they worked relatively well together. Again, a lot of things that's going to let teams down and at this type of competition is just lack of experience and lack of playing, really. So the more they play and the more they work together as a team, the results are going to speak for themselves. Even individual results, they played quite well individually. I had quite a bit of trouble against Happy and Crow. So I try and avoid them as best as I could. So yeah, it means like trying to sneak around them and stuff like that. And yeah, that's good team.
Yeah, I think it's interesting what you say about the lack of. They just need a bit more time together, because Anomaly was actually, of the 5 South Australian teams we sent this year, was the last one that got finalised, I believe. So they probably had the least time out of all of the South Australian teams to be playing together. Also of note, because we didn't have a team cap this year, for those not in the know, we were able to send as many teams as we like, hence the 5 teams. Normally we would have only been able to have 3. We wanted to fully take advantage of that, especially given like the proximity of Bendigo to Adelaide. So we did, we basically sent everyone, that was able and willing to go. So of note, Pendragon has only been playing 4 seasons of League, I want to say. So yeah, and it kind of shows, obviously, like once you get to a Nationals, like the experience is at the end of the day most of the time what kind of does you a lot of favors, I guess. So Pendragon was by far probably one of the most inexperienced South Australian players we had going this year, but I'm still super duper proud of all of our SA squad.
Should be, man.
It's a pretty daunting thing, but they rose to the occasion, and Pendragon's always got like a really good attitude, which I was really impressed with. Always like really positive and stuff. So yeah, also of note, I think Happy has played quite a few seasons of League now, but he only recently started coming to the Nats trainings, which at least in South Australia there's like quite a massive jump in terms of like how hard it is between Nats training and League. But Happy's in my mind one of the up and coming players we have that has the potential to be superstardom. He's only 15 years old, if you didn't know.
Oh,
and
wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. You wouldn't think, you'd think he'd be like, I don't know, like 17, right? But no, he's 15 years old and he's already like 6 foot plus, left-handed, really lanky. So, we might have our own husky growing in South Australia, perfected in a vat. Got a lock of his hair from the previous Nationals. No, Happy's really good. And we've been always really impressed with Happy.
He came out with the GRC of 1.08, which is, for a person who's just started, essentially, so they've been playing, just over a year of League or something like that?
I think he's been playing a year and a half or so of League from memory, yep.
That's just, it's a massive jump up for Pendragon and for Happy, a massive jump up to go from that to the Nationals. So to be able to achieve a GRC of over 1 is quite incredible. And then you had Zeph at 1.09 and Wolfie at 0.9. So 3 players who are all averaging around the 1 GRC. There was only, I think, 2 teams in the in that bottom 8 that had 3 players in that realm. So yeah, it went to show that they had some really good performances. Obviously got some really good results throughout the week.
Just quickly before I forget, Zeph will kill me if I don't mention it. So talking all about the the very limited experience of Pendragon and Happy, Zeph is a player that's only played maybe 2 or 3 seasons of League, and he is actually a professional Counter-Strike esports player, and so he quite frequently has stuff on our Monday nights which prevents him from being able to train. And in spite of all of that, he's another one of those up and coming players that if he's able to find the time to fully commit to it, he'll be insane. He's on the topic of not having much experience and time to play and stuff, he's extremely impressive in that regard. And as I understand it, so Axiom was the in-game leader for the team, and then Zeph was their opening attack or opening batsman. Once Zeph had bases, or if they started struggling, Happy would be the next in line, and then Wolfie would be the next in line, and then Crow, and then Pendragon. So yeah, I guess I have to talk about them because they're my boys, but Axiom also another player that's extremely impressive to all of us. He's got a really good attitude, mentality, very humble, maybe a little too humble. He needs a little bit more, but another player that, relative to a lot of the other South Australian players we have, is very inexperienced, probably year and a half of League, and then half a year to a year of Nats training. He's done very, very well for himself. Very proud of Axiom, and he's a pretty imposing player to come up against. I'm pretty sure he's actually taller than the wall, which is crazy. But once he gets a little bit more experience under his belt and learns how to move a little bit more crisply, I guess he'll be a super scary player to come up against.
Yeah. One thing I was going to add is especially with these guys, a lot of the time I just catch them. For me, I just catch them out. They would just be, I guess, unaware that somebody could be there, and it was usually me or one of my teammates that would just catch them looking the wrong way at the right time or something like that. And like you said, once they get their movements down to an art, that's going to be quite a scary team to come up against.
Are they going to stick together, Holmes?
It's kind of early days now. I'm not actually sure. South Australia's taken a bit of a break. I think we're actually starting to train next week. So I haven't really had any chats with anyone. We haven't done a post-Nats review or anything. So I'm not sure. I think at the very least, pretty much all of them will keep playing. So remains to be seen. We never know what happens with teams. There might be a couple roster changes. It might be a bunch of the teams completely swap. It's early days, so I don't really know at the moment. I do hope they stick together because they've got a lot of potential. I know they were really disappointed with their performance because they had some really high highs, but they also had some lows, just to do with some, just that lack of experience. Going to a nationals, tensions can get high. The pressure can get to you a bit. But yeah, I very much hope that they stick together because I think they can get really, really good.
Is there any final words, lads, on how they can move into the next tier if they do decide to stay together?
From me, just keep playing, keep practicing. Depending on what they do as a team. It'll all start meshing together once they pass over that that year mark as a team. Everything will just start connecting, and you'll get used to your teammates being where you need them to be at a certain time without actually having to communicate to them too much. But a great team. Real nice guys too. They'd always come out saying good game or good take or good shot and stuff like that. I love playing against people like that because I do that myself. Well, I try to anyway. Other times I'm just like, ugh. But yeah, no, great guys. I would like to see them keep playing together too. Yeah.
And Holmes, anything you want to add before we move on, my friend?
Nah, just real proud of you boys. Hope you keep playing. I did have a bit of an intervention with them at one point during the comp because they were like really like frazzled and like, you know, completely confused on what they were supposed to do like strategically. So I guess repeating a bit of the advice I gave them then, which is a lot of the times like the best, most effective strategies are like surprisingly simple. And it's all about the execution of them, and like the not making mistakes is bigger than a lot of things, you know. It's easy to, you know, go crazy on like the theory crafting and looking at the map and looking at all the angles and, you know, all these really specific things you can do, but at the end of the day, once you're in there, you know, adrenaline's flowing, tensions are high, like the pressure's on. It's the simple strategies that win the day, and more than the simple strategies, it's the, you know, it's the macro skills that your team shows, like, you know, your ability to panel and position properly and communicate as a team and stuff. So yeah, you just gotta keep playing, boys, and you'll be a pretty crazy team before long.
Awesome. Yeah. 2 6 foot plus players, including a lefty. There's been another pretty successful team who have used that as a blueprint for success. So.
Just while on that note, I just remembered I came up between the both of them in one of the corridors, and I was like, okay, yeah, no, I don't belong here. Sorry, I came to the wrong neighborhood. I'll just be taking my leave.
Get Mum on the phone. Mum, come and help me.
Come pick me up.
Yes. Well, best of luck to the Anomaly guys, and I really hope you guys stick around because I'm looking forward to seeing these young guns next year when I come back. So well done to Anomaly, and yeah, let's move on now to our 20th place team, the Hobart Archangels. On the Hobart Archangels, we've got Mantis, Grays, Seeger, Charon, Easy Points, and Captain Morgan. They were, I think, listed in at 22nd, so they climbed a couple of spots into 20th. And yeah, it's great to see a bunch of these players returning back to another nationals. Yeah, Mr. Four Eyes, how did the Hobart Archangels? How many headaches did those guys create for you during the nationals?
Too many. Huge team. I don't even know where to begin. Let's just say when I first played them, I went in with an open mind, and I came out and I was just like, damn, I felt like I was playing, you know, top tier competition again, because like they're structured really well. I've got nothing but good things to say about those guys. Like, they played a good defensive game. They played a structured attacking game as well. They knew where they needed to be. They just created headaches for a lot of the teams that went up against them. So props to them. Yeah.
One of the things I noticed in their results is they had Mantis on 1.07, Grays on 1.01, Sega on 0.95, Charon on 0.89, and Easy Points on 0.8. So the results of their individuals on their team were like highly compressed, which is generally like, and they're good results, like a 0.8 plus GRC for a team that's finishing around the 20th is still good, very good. And something that you'll notice with the top teams is that they generally don't, you know, it's not like they have one or two outstanding players and then there's a big fall away. Quite often you're getting, you know, 9 or 10 grand across the field when they're playing teams of equal caliber. So that goes sort of demonstrated to me they've got pretty good teamwork and structure. Just by looking at the results there. Is there anything else you could add, Ryan? Did you get to play them more than once during the comp?
No, I'm pretty sure we only played them once, but I also refed one of their games. I think they definitely wanted to play a really structured game. But from what I saw, something that, like a point of improvement, which I'm skipping a little bit, but a point of improvement for them, I think, from watching that reffing game is making the swaps from like swapping a player from attack into defense or pulling out a third defender into attack. A lot of the time it took a really long time, like having a full-blown conversation, or if it wasn't a conversation, it was a yelling across the arena and a what?
Yeah,
send me
I
this
did
person.
notice that too.
What? So there was a little bit of chaos in their structure, which I think took away from at the end of the day, that if it takes ideally it would take only a handful of seconds to swap players if you're at a high level, but if that starts taking like 10 plus seconds, 15, even 20 seconds, that's really valuable time. That could have been the difference of you getting a base or not. So I guess from reffing that game, that'd be my recommendation for them, is finding a way that works for them in where they can swap they can change the structure of their team from, let's say, like a 3D 2A to 2 defense, 3 attack. Maybe just a word and then everyone knows what that means. Or even just the swapping of like one player from attack into defense. A lot of the time I was noticing that I think Karen was the one leading the game. He would come back to defense and then he would like run around a bunch trying to find a specific person, and like doing a lot of it a little bit more hands-on, where you can give a little bit of that agency to your teammates. So like, hey, swap with this person, send them here, and then if you want to come home and reset the defense, that's cool. Or if you think your time's better spent, just field pointing for a bit or stopping another team at another base, you can go do that while you wait for your attacker to come. But yeah, just that's what I noticed. I think also of note, they had a presence at each of the prenats. So I think prenats 1, it wasn't all of the players, but I'm pretty sure prenats 2 and 3, they had pretty much their whole team there, which obviously did them some savers. They finished, what did they finish? They finished in, oh, I can't see it, I'm blind, 22nd. So it did them some favors. Also of note, if we look at their placings throughout the comp, they started really high in 17th, but as the comp went on, they kind of started to drop a little bit. So what will, given that data, the fact that they were consistently dropping positions as the comp went on, what would you attribute that to, Four Eyes?
Probably like you mentioned, just taking a little bit too long to swap over. Like I said, their defense and attacking structure is great. But yeah, the crucial seconds in swapping over and, positioning yourselves back up and sort of keeping an eye on what everyone's doing, it can cost you time. But again, if they, excuse me, if they continue to work on that, then yeah, they're only just going to get better. But from what I played against them, their structure was great.
Yeah, and especially with Hobart Nationals being the next one, I see them doing very, very well, especially at a home nationals. One last honourable mention from me was Grays was really good.
Yes.
So
oh my god.
Yeah, I don't think it was a round robin game, but I'm pretty sure we versed them in training. But I remember being at their base, and I've played for quite a while, and here's this player that I've not really seen before. I'm like, all right, here we go. I'm gonna shoot this, but oh, she's beating me. I was like, okay, well, let's put a bit more attention into it. Oh, she got me again, and now I'm like, all right, well, now I'm actually trying. And then she just kept beating me in duels and stuff. So she was super fast. Her positioning around panels and stuff to win duels was really good. Yep. I was super impressed with Grace. She was actually my pick to make a placement in the women's side event. I don't remember how she went after that, but yeah, well done, Grace. Color me impressed. I thought you were really good.
Yeah, and Mantis as well. She's the nicest player.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
She's the type of person that would probably apologize after denying you.
Yeah, she actually did to me once. I got their base, I walked out, and she's like, oh, I got into their base, and she came in as I put 2 shots in. I mean, yeah, I was like, oh.
1.89 denial average, by the way. Anyway.
Shut up. Yeah, she's like, oh, I'm sorry. Nice try though. And I'm like, I was like, is that patronizing or is that like you being nice? So I was just like, okay. I just walked away and I was
I'm
like,
sure
I'm not
she
gonna
meant
do that
well.
again. Oh yeah, no, I do. I after like talking to her for a little bit over the comp, yeah, no, I know she means well. She's great character, so yeah, good times.
How did their team structure up? Who was running their attack and floating and things for them?
Yeah, like Holmes mentioned, I think Karen was running the games. So he would go out on attack first and kind of help the teams go, or help the teammates go through there, and then drop back and kind of run defense as well. But in terms of the game overall, Captain Morgan was up there as well, definitely doing some work. He was more of a offensive player. The times that I came across him were mostly usually at his base, and he was making the calls and making sure that his teammates were well aware of where everybody else was. So I'm just guessing, but yeah, I think Karen was running attack and Morgan was running defense. But
it looks like, judging by the stats, that Sega was like their opening batsman, I guess, or like one of the first ones to be getting bases, because he had the highest average score of the team and the second highest base average after Karen as well.
Right. Okay, cool.
Very good. It's a bit of a testament to hosting, and that's just, we all know it gives the scene a boost, but we probably don't give enough attribute to it. Actually even gives this local scene a boost the year before the Nats, because there's this a real hype happening at the site. All the players that have been playing for a few years are like, oh, here's our chance to really train hard and get some results. And so you retain a lot of players, you manage to attract some new players, and it's great to see that both Hobart teams playing so well this year, and they are they're going to be a force. Hopefully I'm not sure, but presumably they've probably got some more players we haven't seen as well that we're going to see next year. So it'd be great to see a real boost for the Tassie guys. Okay,
yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think we all are. Like a small little brawling arena. Like, let's go.
Just on a side note, just coming back to Nats after skipping 2020 and obviously COVID. I've caught the Nats bug again. I'm just like, when's the next comp? Like, let's go. Like, I want to just get back amongst it. So,
how contagious it is, mate. You got to be really careful, right?
Yeah, I know.
Just threw yourself straight back in, and here we are. There we go. All right, so let's move on now to the Darwin Dingoes, and who finished in the lads from Darwin that we all know and love. Finished in 19th. Sinks predicted them at 16th. We had Bubbles, who was pushing you for highest GRC in the bottom 8, mate, on a 1.43, still doing it for his team. Scuttles,
lad.
Lad, absolute lad. Scuttles, Exo, Shifter, Tricky, and Battlebot. The Dingoes. What can you share about the Dingoes with us for us?
Like every game I played against them was just great. Like not in as well as in terms of actual gameplay, but just the personalities of the whole team is just a bunch of characters, and like I feed off their energy basically. So I was just having a good time with them. I was really impressed by Shifter. She's got great comms, great positioning, and she supported her team really, really well. Obviously, Tricky does tricky things, and he's tricky. But yeah, Bubbles definitely. I just feel like he just keeps getting better, and obviously his showing in Masters, he's definitely, up there as a contender. But yeah, in terms of their team as a whole, yeah, it was again structured chaos. They just know what they're doing, but then the other end of the stick, it's just like, how are they doing it? Because you look at them from the outside and you're just like, what are they like? Why is there 4 there and there's one guy over there? And then you come out and they get results. So yeah, nothing but good things for those guys.
Yeah, think about the game differently, and that's what makes the game so beautiful.
Yeah, it's just they would
surprised by teams, and what
Yeah,
they do.
they do things out of the ordinary, which definitely threw me off more than once. And it works for them, so keep doing what they're doing.
How were they structured up in there?
Bubbles was definitely one of their lead attackers. Battlebot was up there too, I remember. Tricky was, other than being cold, he was usually defense. And again, Shifter was a lot of the defense as well.
She was one of the defenders that favored being in the base from memory as well, like in the
rockets. I remember every time she gets shot out, she was always one of the first people to get straight back in there, and the calls from the rest of her team, just helped her stay in there for a lot longer than what I'd like her to be in there for. But yeah, that's from memory. I can't really remember too much, because I don't think we played them too many times after Cascades. So yeah.
And so have we got, what can we say for the Darwin guys? Is there anything in terms of moving into the next tier that you could offer?
Go on, Holmes.
From memory, I think we ended up versing them a couple times, but it looked like they favored like a very heavy defense. Would that be right for us?
Yeah, they definitely favored the defense more, and they'd also have that annoying floating person that would just come back whenever their base would start getting attacked, and you'd just be surrounded by Dingoes players, and you're just like, okay, well, there's no point in attacking this base if there's 4 there, and we'd leave, and then they'd basically do the same thing, like they were very adapting of their surroundings. So props to them. They'd call people home when their base was being attacked, and then send people out when people left. So yeah,
I think my general advice would be, there's obviously some arenas like the Darwin arena where it does favor a very heavy defense. We saw Darwin Nats, the average, like the amount of bases that went down in a game, like it wasn't uncommon for it to be like 2 or 3. Average scores across the board were really low. So I imagine a lot of their playstyle I can't remember other nationals, but at least this nationals comes a lot from how their own arena plays. But I don't necessarily think it translated very well to Bendigo. So obviously having the 4 defenders at your base, because that's what it usually was from memory, means it's really hard for people to get your base, right? But it also means, like, you have to think about the exchange of resources, right? So if there's 4 people defending 1 or 2 people, that's not a lot of field points you're going to be getting. Like, even though your base isn't going down, it's not a lot of field points. And so my assumption would be, because this is something I see with a lot of the lower tier teams, that, this is what prevents them from jumping to that next tier, is devoting too heavily to defense for too long. There's obviously, if you can make your base count 0, that's really awesome. But if enemy teams have gone, oh, this is a really heavy defense, let's not bother, and they exchange on each other, and they each get like 3 or 4 bases, and then you're sitting there with 0 bases, even though you've lost 0 bases, you've still lost that game. So there is a time where you need to start going aggressive. So I think I would like to see that more from the Dingoes. Whether that's in the form of, they just transition to a 2-man attack, 3-man D, or it's a case of like something really drastic where, it's a really heavy D for ages, and then suddenly it's a 3-man attack at a base, they get a base and they come home, and before you even have time to retaliate and get like the free base, because there's only 2 defenders, they're already home. So implementing little things like that, obviously that's team specific, so how you want to go about it is completely up to you and your team, but something along those lines. We were talking before about how the best teams are made up of they generally have the best defenses, but it's not enough to just have the best defense. You also need to have the other half of the game, which is the offense. So I think if they can get some mastery of that and find some little, specific rollouts, if you want to call them that they can do to like catch up on bases and stuff, I think that could be something that sees the Dingoes bump up into that next tier of play for sure.
Yeah, especially as you mentioned that attacking for the Dingoes. I do remember running into Bubbles and Scuttles quite a lot. We'd be clashing for the third team's base, and a lot of the time, what I saw was just the communication was there, but it might not have been as good as what they hoped to be. So maybe that could be something as well. I don't know. I'm probably just nitpicking. But yeah, in terms of their defensive game, it was one of the hardest bases of the Cascades that I played to try and crack. So props to them.
When I'm teaching the guys locally about game controlling, that skill of firstly being able to read the game, knowing the position of the game, at critical points, usually at a third of the way in, halfway through 2/3 of the way in, knowing where things are at, and then making the decision to go aggressive is actually, yes, it's an intellectual exercise, but also you've got to have the cojones to do it sometimes as well. And so for any young captain coming through, pulling that decision to pull the pin means that, whether you go out with an extra attacker or you take your full team out, you're leaving your base vulnerable. So there's an element of risk there. But of course, if you're losing, then the risk return trade-off is valid, because there's only one way you're going to get back into the game. So yeah, that skill of reading the game and then to be able to actually make the decision to go out aggressive is huge in the game. It really could take you up several spots on the ladder.
100%.
Sure.
That's something that I preach to the our up and coming Adelaide teams as well. Is either you don't want to keep the status quo when you're losing the game. You want to change things up. So going aggressive is usually the answer to that.
Yeah, I think the Dingoes had a couple of upset games too. I can't remember, but I do remember them coming out on top against some of the higher ranked teams. So yeah, whatever they do does work for them, but consistency is key, guys.
Yeah. It's so true, isn't it? At Nats, the ability to get a third and then come back and perform at a high level again in the next game, and not turn 1/3 into 2 or 3 or 4 thirds is absolutely a skill. And it's as much about what happens outside the arena as what happens inside the arena when that's happening. But yeah, that's our review of the Darwin Dingoes, and yeah, just lads, we love those guys, and hopefully they stick together and come back. And I'm sure Bubbles is like, I'm still carrying you guys. When's the next young and up and coming star coming from Darwin to take the mantle as the premier player from the region? But Bubbles is up there doing it again. Hopefully they can bring some new blood. Or we've got some new blood coming through on Crazy as well. And hope to see you next year, guys.
Yeah, hopefully the cold doesn't scare them away. I remember, just another side note, the first person I saw when I got to site on my first day there was Tricky, and he was just standing outside having a smoke, and he was just like, I don't like this. And I was like, hey, how you going? And he's like, I'm bloody cold.
Yeah, I get it. Queensland is like a modified version of Darwin, and even I feel like that sometimes in places like that. So they must have it on steroids, poor guys. Okay, so let's move along to the Quackening now. So we have the Quackening from Western Australia. We'll get onto the Ducks soon. I need to ask about the Ducks in a second. But firstly, they placed 18th. They were sync listed at 19th. We had Plank, the BMW, Elmo, Squids, Stinky, and Tech Deck 205. What can you say about the Quackening? Was their little rubber ducky game as good as previous years?
Okay. Side story. I got home, started unpacking my luggage, and I found a duck in one of the pockets of my pants. And I messaged the BMW. And I said, how? And he just said, we have ways, ? And I have no idea how that duck got there. I don't remember taking it away from presentation night. It just turned up. So
I have a theory on that. So from my vantage point at the presentation dinner, I could see the all of the trophies and stuff were right in front of me, and so we have a shield now with a Helios phaser on it for the host site nomination. So obviously New Zealand won 2024 Nats. And yeah, from where I was, I could see they'd shoved a rubber ducky into like the red Gundam with like the phaser. So
I do remember that. Another side story. When we're coming back through customs, we got stopped to have the trophy looked at, and I remember Lycan held it up, and she's like, "Oh, there's a duck in here." And I was like, "Really?" And I was like, "Oh yeah," but it wasn't the one that came out of my luggage. So again, I don't know, but great bunch of people to play with there.
Yes. Well, I'm still finding rubber duckies after the rumble, so they just pop up. I just cleaning out a new shelf that I haven't cleaned for a while, and there's another rubber ducky. So yeah, it'll keep happening. You'll probably find other pants with rubber duckies in them soon. But anyway, we should talk about laser tag as well.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So tell us how they structured up and how they played.
Plank, huge props to that guy. He was definitely up there in the attacking game. BMW was more of a floating. I think he was more of a floating player this year because I saw him on attack and defense as well. Another one to mention was Elmo as well. He was more of a defensive player, but his comms with his teammate, they played a really great defensive game, and when it came to attacking, again, they were definitely one of those teams that you just don't underestimate, because they had the packs there, and obviously with the BMW being a very experienced player, he reads the game quite well, and I'm not sure if he was running the games or not, but they were just capitalizing on dumps. They were capitalizing on teams that were going off to this base or to that base, and their structure was quite good, and I think they're one of the teams that did one of the highest climbs on the last
day. On the last day they climbed 4 spots.
Yeah, one of the top teams that climbed the highest, I think.
Yeah.
Sorry, my cat's annoying me.
That's okay.
We got eliminated by them. We got second to them in our game against them, and I couldn't be happier with how our last game went against them. They played it really well. They countered the game that we played to a T, basically, and ZLTAC was definitely one of the leading forces up there with their team structure. He was just everywhere he needed to be. There's just no faulting those last few games that they played. They were just really well played. Yeah,
I think interestingly, Plank had the 11th highest base average of the entire comp, and that's including a couple people that played like 1 or 2 games that had like 2.0 averages. So you could say he was in the top 10, but officially on the thing, he's 11th place for the highest base average of the entire comp. So for those that weren't there, Plank was this pretty short dude, long crazy hair, and he was like a bloody bullet running around everywhere. It was pretty crazy. He could put on quite a pace, kind of a little bit reminiscent of like what the Spartans looked like in 2019 Sunny Coast Nats. They were just like sprinting around everywhere. It was pretty It was pretty nuts. It was pretty funny to watch as well. Just as a ref, just sitting there seeing this guy going crazy, running laps around the base, and people are like, "Where is this dude? Oh, there he is. He shot me again." So he was the. When people were talking about people moving around fast, he was definitely one of the first people that came into the conversation. Well done, Plank. Very good Nats. First Nats as well.
Was it really? He had a 1.28 tag ratio, which on a 1.2 GRC. So that's telling you if he's small and he's fast, he's probably getting around the arena. And that style of play, you get around the arena and you accumulate. And he must be doing it pretty well. He must be not conceding too many tags to get a 1.28 tag ratio. So that's promising for that team.
Yeah, definitely.
How many other of their players were new?
I think this was ZLTAC's first nationals. I don't remember seeing the name Stinky before, but I know Squid's Elmo played Darwin Nationals.
Okay, that's probably why I don't recognise them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
just
no.
sort of, when I saw Tech Deck's name, I'm like, Tech Deck 205. I think we should maybe start a petition and see if he wants to change his alias to 205. I think that'd be such a cool alias.
205?
Trim it down, 205. How cool! I'd love to be a 205. It would be sick. Something that the WA players can discuss, perhaps.
Yeah.
So, what have you got for us, gentlemen, in terms of the next evolution of the Quackening? How are they going to press into the next tier, given that they're actually not that far away from it?
Yeah, again, they've got experienced players on their team, and especially with the new ones coming in, it's just getting that experience up, keep playing together as a team. I sound like a broken record saying it, but it's one of the best things that you can do, especially if you're looking at progressing as a team. Just keep playing with each other, in game, of course, but just keep finding what works for you as a team, and stick with it. And if there are things that you want to try, just look for guidance from the ones that have been playing for a little bit longer than you have. And I don't see them coming worse as a team if they do decide to stick together. I think it can only just go up from here for them.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I sat the one game that we versed these guys, so I actually have almost zero things to really say, and I don't think I refed any of their games either. So yeah, just other than the generic, keep on playing. If you can stick as a team, that's always good, because once you get that first nats with a team, like, you have a really good idea on like the direction you need to go in terms of literally everything. So yeah, I don't have anything to say other than the generic. Just keep playing, and yeah, if you can stick as a team, that'd be cool.
And you've got to admire the WA players as well for the, having to overcome the pack differential coming from a laser forced community, and having to pick up a brand new system, and a system that doesn't really replicate their system at all. At least in the old days, we always had the one system behind the current system every time we went to nationals for like the first 10 or 15 years. But at least we were playing on zone systems. These guys are actually having to completely convert from 3 shots a second to 2, and a whole bunch of other things. So you got to really admire the fact that they can do that. They can still come to perform, have a climb on finals day. They had 2 players over 1 GRC. So as the guys said, just more practices is going to send you guys high.
Yeah. I mean, another thing I can add too is just getting their swaps cleaner as well. Obviously, with Plank getting out there first and getting his bases, it comes down to, swapping out, or however they're playing it, just getting it a lot crispier and a lot more cleaner. One of the only bottom 8 teams that I could tell that were base counting as well. And for those that don't know, that means once your base has been taken, they remember the color that took that base and how many times it's gone down, so they can construct a strategy based off of that information. So yeah, again, it just comes down to a little bit more experience with everyone, and just getting the swaps cleaner as well.
Yep. And WA have got a rich history of being strategically very good. Like, they've had, through that 2007, excuse me, through to 2012, where they just kind of won everything. That knowledge is all kind of still lingering in the community. So these new players from WA have got good credentials, essentially, in being able to pick up what they need to pick up to progress up the ladder. So yeah, hopefully they are going to return and join us in Hobart.
Yeah,
All right.
Definitely a team I love playing against, inside and outside of the maze as well.
Well, I'm sure the Tassie guys want their fair share of little rubber duckies lying around the arena in various spaces through the side as well. So, okay, so let's move on now to our final team of this release, which is Leviathan, and they finished in 17th. They were, I think, listed at 18th, so they moved up 1 spot. We have Tuscan, Nightmare Rose, Sicarius, Yazbekistan, and Oddity. 5-person team. Talk to us about Leviathan, Four Eyes. How did they play, and how did they structure up?
Yeah, for some reason, I don't remember too much about these guys. I think it's because I tried avoiding their team as much as I could, knowing that they were a stronger team in a lot of the games that we played. When Guards was making our calls as well, he would try and stay away from that team as well, because they're quite good pack on pack, great communicators across the maze. I kept running into Yazbekistan quite a lot on defense and attack as well. So I'm not sure if he was one of the ones leading the attack or, but yeah, his presence was definitely felt around the maze. As well as Nightmare Rose as well. I think he might have been the one that was leading the plays, because I did hear a lot of calls coming from him about who to swap with and who to send out and stuff like that. But Yaz and Nightmare Rose were definitely around basically everywhere. And they always had players. Their defense game was quite good too, in terms of positioning, and when nothing was happening at their base, they did have that in-game knowledge to push out and to get those pack points and to fall back when people were coming over to them. So again, definitely one of the better of the bottom 8 teams that I played against, and it shows just in results.
Yeah, I think those Sydney guys are just getting really good at a standard kind of floaty defense, defense oriented, but like we were saying before, where you might invest too heavily in your defense and then not know when to go aggressive. I think they made very good use of where their defenders were positioned when things weren't happening, to help consolidate those base takes, with that third person rocking up, or just a third person that's really far away and just shooting that one person on the back door, for instance, and that's the difference of getting a base. So yeah, I think kudos to those Sydney guys. They're they're just getting really good strategically and just making making the right plays and stuff. I think you were right in Nightmare Rose being the lead attacker, because he was tagged the most on the team by quite a margin as well. It was like 200 tags or something against. So, and that's typically something that you'll see at Nationals, is if you were to look through the most tag players of the comp, they're usually the in-game leaders of the game, of the teams, because they'll usually be in a position where they want to see stuff, and where if you're in a position where you can see stuff, there's people, they're probably trying to shoot you. And then also there's a thing of once you start, you put that in-game leader cap on, you'll get caught out in times where you're thinking about the game rather than shooting that person in front of you. So you'll see that they might lose quite a bit of duels. But also interestingly, if they are doing a good job as a lead attacker or an in-game leader, they'll also typically have a very, very high tag count as well. So that kind of backs it up. And by the looks, it seems like Tuscan was the opening batsman, one of the first priorities to go out and get the bases, because he had after Nightmare Rose, he had the second highest base average on the team. Tuscan also had by far the highest denials 4. So he was he was causing trouble everywhere by the looks. So well done, Tuscan. I remember versing him in Darwin Nats, I think, and he was one of those players that was like I was talking about with Grays, where you're like, oh, here we go, here's a new player. I've been playing for ages, and they just catch you out and they surprise you, and you have to give them props, respect, Tuscan, very nicely done.
Yeah, I can confirm he was majority of the denies that I got on me at their base. Because again, I try my best, in every game, but that guy was just catching me out all the time, and it's just man, I'm just I just got to sharpen up, just don't underestimate your competition, really. And it's just, he's a great player, and there's definitely potential there if he continues to keep playing. It's only going to get better.
What can you guys tell us about Sicarius? He got a 0.99 GRC, which is really high. Is he a new player, or are they a new player?
I haven't seen the Alias before, so I think so, and I don't even
Either.
remember seeing them at any of the pre-nats either.
Yeah, I think from memory, they're a new player as well, and again, you know, they were one of the players that was prioritizing pushing out on defense, because a lot of the time, if I was getting shot on attacking the third team's base, I'd turn around and I'd always see the third team just sniping and, you know, getting those points. So I think he was prioritized as a floater. I'm not too sure. Yeah, he's definitely one of those ones to watch, and just to always be aware of your surroundings, it seems.
Yeah. I do. So I have had an experience of playing a different version of Leviathan in Darwin, because I was playing on the Hurricanes that year, which was in the bottom tier, and we played them quite a lot actually, because we were in the Cascades and everything with them all the way through, and they knocked us out of the tournament in the final game. And I have huge respect for Nightmare Rose as a captain. He was the one of the captains in that bottom tier that I had to consistently play like as good a strategy as possible to beat. Like they were always strategically well set up. They were always making good decisions. They were leaving their base when they needed to. If they were behind, they were going aggressive. They were doing all the things right that they needed to. And Nightmare Rose has actually been around the scene for a long time down there. So he's actually quite experienced, understands the game quite well. So I can definitely see why they finished at the top of that bottom tier, with the having somebody like Nightmare Rose at the helm, kind of giving the direction to those players. And yeah, I've played Tuscan before. I know how good he is around the arena. And that's the thing, right? Like, the difference between players in the top tier and the bottom tier isn't really that much in terms of around the arena. Like, there's some really sharp players around the arena. Quite often the difference is just the number of high-level players increases in the top teams. They've got more depth in their scene to be able to load up their teams with more top-level talent, and then it's cohesion and just and playing together, and in-game decision-making, which is just a function of experience. So, there's no surprises around seeing somebody like Tuscan giving people a bunch of hassles and denying them a lot in that bottom tier. Now everybody's going to know Four Eyes about
no, it's all right.
It's going to be a
It's
thing
all
now.
right.
How many memes can we create between now and Hobart, you reckon? That's the challenge for the community. How many Four Eyes denial memes can we possibly create?
Too many.
I think interestingly as well, Leviathan had the best overall like climb fall ratio, if you want to call it. So they climbed 4 spots overall. They climbed 3 from round robin to Cascade 1, and then they climbed 1 from Cascade 1 to Cascade 2, and then they only dropped 1 after that. So overall they ended up climbing 3 spots from their original placing, which was the highest of the bottom 8. So that's generally like a testament of the teams that are adapting the best to the arena. And, you know, making changes and stuff, not getting caught just doing the same thing over and over again, and, you know, making the same mistakes over and over again. So, yeah, well done, Leviathan. I think in terms of things for them to improve on, I versed them once myself as well. In fact, I might have even sat the game that we versed them, and I didn't ref any games. But from what you boys are saying in that, and from what I know in Sydney in general, of like their teams play very strategically, like quite smart. Like, they're always making good decisions. Like Bootza was saying, like, you can't, you know, underestimate these teams, and like, because if you give them an inch, like, they'll take it, and you'll be like, oh, you'll regret you gave them that inch. You know, they play quite smart. So it makes you wonder, how can they break into that top tier if they're doing like all the right things strategically? And generally, I think that comes down to just the execution, like I was saying before, of the micro things. You know, how many mistakes you're making in your defense. You know, how many times did you drop a base because someone, instead of comming that they're about to take a duel, saying like, I don't know, loading back, they just backed themselves to win that duel. They were like, I've got this. And they didn't say anything. They lose, and then that person goes and shoots everyone because they didn't say anything. You know, how many bases did you drop because of that? How many bases could you have gotten where you got denied because you maybe didn't call the door that they were coming from early enough. At the end of the day, laser tag's a game of milliseconds and millimeters. So I think the best thing for them to do is to really sharpen up the micro stuff. Something I do at home when we're in training time and developing new skills time and stuff is running like an attack versus defense drill. So just 5 minutes at a base. I usually turn reloads on, infinite base destroys, make the base come up every 10 seconds even after it's destroyed. You just have 3 defenders, 2 attackers, or whatever variation you want. You play for the 5 minutes, but I put an emphasis of once those 5 minutes is up, having 2 minutes of like a quick review time where each of the players can, go like, oh hey, like we dropped one of those bases because at one point, like maybe the last line was like, oh, I got a really late comm on the back door, and the guy will go like, oh yeah, I don't know why I was that late. I won't do it again, and stuff like that. I think that goes a long way. It's all about the execution. You can play the best strategic game, you can have the smartest people in there, but if you don't have the ability to just back it up in terms of micro plays and stuff, then it's not going to matter. So I think, given that they play strategically quite smart, that would be my guess in terms of like the next thing to really push them into that top tier, and maybe even beyond.
It's one of those principles that's consistent all the way through the ladder, isn't it? Just the getting the fundamentals right and doing the fundamentals on a more consistent basis. I know that when we're training people in defense here, I sort of say to the guys, it's a good defensive team. Anybody can defend well for a minute, 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes. A good defensive team can defend impeccably for 12 minutes with minimal mistakes. And that's the thing. It's like being able to maintain a focus of attention for a period of time, for a 12-minute period of time where nothing slips between the cracks. And that really takes work. That takes a lot of training and dedication. So yeah, totally agree with you on that one, mate. And I really hope they continue to play. And it sounds like they've got is Oddity a new player as well? So they've got 2 new players on that team.
Yeah, I'd say so. I don't recognise the alias.
Yeah. So hopefully they stick together and see us in Hobart also.
Yeah, I hope they do. Because like I said, I've said it to a lot of teams, but there's definitely potential there to grow. One thing I tell newer players over here is like, there's no wrong way to play laser tag, but once you get your fundamentals down, and just the minor things, the really small things can make the biggest difference. So yeah, completely agree with you guys on that one.
I call it a game of 1%ers, and you've just got to collect like 121 percenters until your game's like 120% better. But it's a bit like that. And every time you go to a nationals, you pick up another half a dozen or so, and before you know it, you're climbing up the ladder. So, yeah. Well, I think that concludes our review of the first 8 teams in our post-Nats review for the 2022 Zone Laser Tag Australasian Championships, guys. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I reckon so.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a great comp for me. Obviously, like I said before, Bendigo's come full circle for me. So
yeah, me too.
Seeing all these new guys jumping in and really taking me for a ride. I was just like, oh man, this is awesome. This is why I keep coming back. Not because of not only just because of like the banter and the jokes and stuff like that, but it's just because you want to do well. So yeah, it's good to see.
I think somebody mentioned there was like 40 odd new players this year or something. So it was quite a high number.
Something wild. I know we had like 10 or 15 or something crazy like that, new players just from SA. So
yeah,
I can't say anything for New Zealand because it was just 2 of us. So
in 2015, it was the same situation. It was the same thing. We had a record number of new players, so it's just interesting to see that the theme of Bendigo is rejuvenation and getting a whole bunch of new blood. Which what could we ask? Couldn't ask for anything more after the last couple of years. Something happened. I don't know if you guys heard about it, but yeah. Anyway,
I don't know. It's pretty isolated over here in our little country. I don't know what you're talking about.
surprised I let you out anyway.
Actual facts.
So thanks so much, guys, for sharing your thoughts and wisdom tonight on our first of 3 parts to this Zone Laser Tag 2022 Australasian Championships post-Nats review. In the next one, we're going to have a good friend of ours, CV, coming along and joining us for to share his insights into the middle tier. So we're going from, what teams are we going from? 9 to 16 in the next one?
I believe so.
Yeah, so that will be coming out very shortly. We'll keep you posted on that. As we said earlier, if you have any feedback or if you just want to say thanks or whatever, please share with us. What is it? lasersportsacademy@gmail.com. It's in the description below. Please email us or send us a message and let us know how you feel about these reviews. And yeah, thank you for tuning in, and we hope you tune into the next one.
Yeah, thank you, Four Eyes.
Oh, no, that's all good. Thank you guys for bringing me along. I don't know how helpful I've been, but anyway, it's been a good yarn. So, yeah.
I had a good laugh too, mate. That was really helpful for me. Thank you.
Oh, sweet as.